rehearsal for this summer that we felt like would be a drama and would bring a greater impact to the theater world and to our students.
Looking for contemporary titles with challenging scores that have like really meaningful messages is hard to find whenever you're looking for material that you can work with high schoolers on. Parade was a favorite for both Bethany and I think it kind of fell into our laps in a really special way.
The show takes place in 1913 and 1915 and surrounds the true history of the trial of Leo Frank for the murder of Mary Fagan. And it's a story of anti-Semitism and blatant racism.
From an education standpoint, being able to provide a storytelling device to these students that is something that is so much larger than themselves. It's important for our community, North Texas Performing Arts, but also Plano, North Texas, to be able to see examples of artistic experiences like this happening, not only in New York.
This show is a 3-week process of a Jason Robert Brown score, and that in itself is kind of crazy. We have an amazing team that really gives the students the opportunity to look into the professional world, and that's what Pursuits is really all about, is making sure that these kids are ready to go into the collegiate world or into the professional world with almost all of the tools that we can provide to make sure that they're successful.
I mean, this is a production that one is on Broadway right now, which is super cool that we even are able to do it. To be able to be a POC on the production, I love encouraging our students here, and this is a hard show, so I love being a part of that message, being a part of the hard work.
This show helps our collegiate students because it's the full package. You have to deal with the dance that comes with it, the acting that comes with the dancing and the singing. It meshes all of the tools, that you would need in college in one show. And I think with Collegiate Pursuits and with the process that we go through creatively, I think this will be very beneficial.
Musical theater, on top of being a purely American art form, is the most collaborative art form, and collaboration is difficult. And we're seeing collaboration from every level, within the musical department, within the choreo and the directing team. It's been so collaborative. So I think we are raising up a generation of artists who are brilliant collaborators, are very technically trained, are ready to enter the rehearsal room with professionalism and dignity and pride in their work. And there's truly something so special about the Pursuits program, and I think Parade, our ambitions are so high with this show, and so I'm excited to see on the back end what the students feel like they glean from this.
I think the most challenging part of the rehearsal process is the blatant subject matter itself, is dealing with these real, true historical events. We are very lucky to have an incredible creative team full of specialists and artists full of heart who are able to guide these young actors through this process. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we're retelling horrific events and modern American history that needs to be told so that history does not repeat itself inevitably.
It is a really hard show. The subject matter is something that is touchy for a lot of people, but unfortunately has to be talked about. And that's challenging for adults. So imagine youth doing it. High school, collegiate level students doing this material is definitely challenging.
It's one of those pieces that will really make not only the actors but the audience just really feel something and want to carry out the story. Having the cast that we do have, everyone is so incredibly united and compassionate with one another. The fact that we have each other to, like, each other's shoulders to either cry on or to give each other hugs or just to hold hands or do a brush down like we do every rehearsal, it truly makes it so much easier when you know that you could go to any single one of us and just give them a hug and they'll be right there with open arms ready to hug you back. It's so amazing, even though it can be really hard on every single one of us. At the end of the day, we're just all in this together, and we know that it'll be so worth it.
The entire show is single cast, but every single role has an understudy or swing. Just within the first week, I've watched almost every single principal character have their swing or understudy run pieces multiple times solely for the fact that they know that they cannot do this process by themselves. They know that they cannot hold the emotional weight of doing this 7 times a day. Seeing that relationship build is really remarkable, I think, when you're working with teenagers, because that's seeing an ultimate act of selflessness and investing in other artists. And I think at the end of the day, the show will be wonderful. It'll be moving, it'll be beautiful, but if we leave this process with 28 young artists who are more comfortable with themselves and more comfortable being kind people, then we've done our job.
I think obviously the content is difficult, really difficult, especially for, we're still students, all of us are in high school or like just graduated this past year, so it's a really deep show. All the different issues it tackles, it gets emotional at times in the room, and it's just some really difficult stuff that we really have to dig deep into.
While it is incredibly difficult content, we are encouraging these students not to shy away from the fact that it is uncomfortable. You should be uncomfortable when you're telling these types of stories. So what we're doing is we're supplying them with tools to be able to portray these uncomfortable scenarios and characters and situations and still be able to take care of their mental and emotional well-being. Something I'm really honored to be a part of is that for one of the first times, really, this production is being done completely accurately to the characters that are in the show. So when this show first went on Broadway, the roles were not necessarily cast based on the ethnic and cultural diversity that the title calls for. And in fact, the current Broadway revival is the only version where the Jewish characters are being played by Jewish people, and of course the Black characters are being played by Black actors, but we are also doing the same thing. And I think it's so exciting that in Plano, Texas, that we have the student base to be able to cast this completely accurately and let these students tell their story.
We genuinely feel the material. We get a sense of what it all means, and I'm sure as Jewish people, we've experienced, I know I have, I don't know about you, but I've experienced what it's like to kind of get that negativity thrown at you, and it's really hard to take it because it's how you grew up and it's all that you know. And as actors, we can look at the material and be like, we want to convey this so correctly because we feel it. We feel these people, and it's people from our heritage. So even though we weren't alive during 1910, the learning aspect even for us is just so incredibly heavy, and the audience will look at us and be like, that is the next generation of these people.
Casting actors authentically has presented such a unique opportunity because I feel like I identify with Leo a lot, like being Jewish in the South, growing up in Texas my whole life. It would be very easy for our directors to have cast these roles of Leo and Lucille as actors from a different religion or something like that, but I do think it's really important to the story, and I think it really adds to our show that both of us are Jewish and we're able to tell the story really, really authentically.
It matters to have more POC youth in our shows, on our stages, so that they can continue bringing that message to the next generation. That's the only way we're going to continue a legacy of growth and change. Representation matters.
Like when musical theater in general started, like it wasn't really structured for POC or black people to thrive in. People of color and black people have had to like fight their way and bust their way through the door just to be seen and heard on stage or, you know, behind the camera. And it's sad, but it's the truth.
That's why I think I fight so hard to do shows like this, because you never get to see like so much diversity on a youth stage, like hardly ever. When I was growing up, there just weren't that many people that looked like me on stage. As I've gotten older, Broadway, the industry is changing, but I do think it starts with the youth. And if we don't have diversity starting as children, like where are we gonna be as adults? I think it's important that everyone feels represented on stage, because without it, people feel not seen and not heard. Personally speaking, sometimes when you watch a show and you see there's no diversity, it's sometimes like, where would I fit in here? As a person of color in theater, it's more of like, when you see no diversity, it's like, do I even have a place here? I think that's why we fight so hard to be represented on stage, because not only do we have a place on the stage, it matters that we're on the stage to show other people that like, we're still here. I strongly believe that like, if you want to do theater or you want to perform, I strongly believe like, if you want to, you should do it. There's always gonna be that fear that like you're not accepted, but at the end of the day, nothing is gonna change unless we change it. I am so excited for them to just watch the show. If you've seen the show before, especially if you haven't seen the show before, I think it's just going to change your perspective on life. It is just so impactful no matter who you are.
I think that we can sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is gonna be a difficult show to like, you know, put on for people. But at the same time, I'm ready for them to see the intensity of it, because that's what the show's supposed to bring to the audience. Really, I'm really ready to tell that story.
There are quite a few things that I'm excited for in choreographing. First, Kameron and I get to collaborate again. Second, this show has given me the opportunity to do a lot of historical research, not just in the content itself, but also in the historical dances that were happening at the time.
This is a hard show, so I love being a part of that message, being a part of the hard work. So I'm really excited to dig down deep and get into it. I'm most excited to get in front of an audience. I think the fact that we're doing this show in 3 weeks is like crazy. But I think this cast is one of the most hardworking casts I've ever worked with. Like, everyone is like committed, like 100%.
I'm so excited to perform this music. Yes, it is difficult, but at the same time, it brings something out in you, and like, it tells a story.
I think what I'm most excited for musically is just hearing it all come together and seeing the practice and all of the rehearsal come to fruition in performances.
I'm really excited to tell this story with the live orchestra. The fact that we get to have such a collaborative experience to tell such an intimate story that's so sensitive and so real with real people is what I'm looking forward to the most.
I think this story is really important to tell, and that's probably what I'm most excited for, yeah.
I'm excited for them to hear the music, because we've been trekking,
Yeah.
and we have the most incredible group of actors who have put all of their heart into the show, and it's really incredible to hear all of us together. And then I think our duet in Act 2, because it shows a huge milestone in the show, the fear of this thing that is sinking them to the ground, and it's this huge moment of release. It really is an amazing moment that I think the audiences will really enjoy.
And I think one of the most beautiful things that we've seen within just week 1 is through some of our dramaturgical conversations is watching these students own the responsibility of what telling a story like this is, and saying things like, I'm so excited to do this and wake people up, or looking at each other and being like, guys, this is amazing that we have this gift. Like, it's hard, but they're hungry for art that inspires change, and that just makes us more excited and makes the process have that much more heart.
Yeah.